The most dangerous threat facing the world today may not be hidden in a classified intelligence report. It may not be lurking inside a secret weapons program or a decision that's been made yet. What are the chances that it could be a pattern? A pattern so old that it has survived kings, emperors, revolutions, world wars, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. One that has appeared so often throughout history that some scholars believe it acts like a gravitational force, pulling nations toward conflict even when their leaders desperately want peace. And if that sounds impossible, consider this. Some of the smartest military strategists, historians, and political scientists on Earth are studying a warning written nearly 2,400 years ago by a man who witnessed his own world tear itself apart. The disturbing part is not that he predicted one war, but that he may have identified the structure behind many of them. Because if he was right, then the world's two most powerful nations may already be following a script written before the birth of Christ. And if history has anything to say about what comes next, the ending is not reassuring. We often like to think that the future is an open book, shaped entirely by the choices of modern leaders, the shifting tides of economics, and the latest breakthroughs in technology. But what if the greatest threat to global peace today isn't a sudden, unpredictable crisis, but a script written more than 2,000 years ago? What if the world's most powerful nations are marching toward a catastrophic conflict, fully aware of the danger, yet seemingly powerless to change course? To understand the modern friction between the world's biggest superpowers, we have to travel back to the 5th century BCE, to the rugged, war-torn landscapes of ancient Greece. There, an Athenian general and historian named Thucydides sat down to chronicle the devastating war between Athens and Sparta. Millenniums later, political scientists looked at that ancient observation and realized it wasn't just a footnote about Greek history. It was a structural law of human behavior. Today, we call this phenomenon the Thucydides Trap. It is a severe, recurring geopolitical pattern that occurs when a rapidly rising global power threatens to displace an established ruling power. When that happens, the resulting friction almost always leads to war. The dynamic is driven by two incredibly powerful psychological and strategic forces. The first is the rising power's arrogance. As a new nation gains massive economic, technological, and military strength, its worldview naturally changes. It expects more influence. It wants a greater say in global affairs, a seat at the head of the table, and the power to redraw spheres of control to reflect its new reality. It views its ascent not as an aggressive act, but as its rightful, hard-earned place in the world. The second force is the ruling power's paranoia. The established nation, which has spent decades, sometimes centuries, building the global rules, securing the trade routes, and anchoring international alliances, looks at the newcomer with deep suspicion. It doesn't see the rising power's growing confidence as a natural progression. Instead, it sees it as a direct threat to the international stability and peace it worked so hard to establish. When these two forces collide, ordinary diplomatic friction gets dangerously amplified. Minor miscalculations turn into massive provocations. Trade disputes become economic warfare. Technology sharing becomes a matter of national security. Every action taken by the rising power to defend itself is viewed by the ruling power as an act of aggression. Every action taken by the ruling power to maintain the status quo is viewed by the newcomer as an attempt to encircle and contain it. Eventually, both sides begin to view a military clash not as a worst-case scenario, but as an absolute inevitability.